The Danger Kitty has arrived. Let's go. Today, we're taking a look at one of the most popular entries into the concealed carry micro 9mm category, the Springfield Armory Hellcat. Before we get going, I do want to call out that everything I talk about in my videos can be found on the blog post that I have linked in that description. The Hellcat was originally introduced by Springfield in late 2019 as their contender in the then new micro 9mm concealed carry handgun category. It was available with or without a manual safety, and eventually Springfield introduced an optics ready variant, and all of these are available in either black or FDE Cerakote. So the first order of business is to get this thing unboxed. It comes in the basic Springfield Armory box, but it's a bit oversized, as you notice, because when we take a look inside, we see that it comes in a zippered nylon carrying case, which is a nice bonus. Putting the case aside for a second, we've got some paperwork down here, the manual, which you should read. We've got the proof target from the factory, and inside the accessories slot, we've got a mag loader that Springfield throws in, a flush mount base plate for the 11-round magazine, and the trigger lock that nobody uses. Taking a look at the case itself, it's a pretty nice canvas case. It looks pretty durable, nice zippers. The real good stuff is inside, of course, so we're going to open it up. So we've got the Hellcat itself. We've got an 11-round magazine with a pinky rest, and we also have a 13-round magazine with an extended base plate. So the Hellcat that we have here is that optics ready version in FDE Cerakote. It's 6 inches long, 4 inches tall with the flush base plate, and 4.5 inches tall with that extended 13-round magazine. It's almost exactly an inch wide, and it's got a 3-inch hammer forged barrel with a 1 in 10 twist. Basically, this thing is very similarly sized to the Taurus GX4 we just recently took a look at. This weighs in at a featherweight 18 ounces unloaded, according to Springfield, and it carries an MSRP of $660 for this optics ready model. Street price is lower, usually closer to $550, which is what I got this for. The Hellcat has some notable features baked into it that set it apart from other entries in this category. Starting with the frame and working from front to back, the first thing that we notice is that it's got a little Picatinny slot here for mounting lights or accessories, which is something that most of its competitors lack just because all of these things are really small and don't have the space. After that is the Hellcat's rotating tech down lever and the slide lock. The slide lock is nice and low profile so it doesn't snag on holsters or clothing or anything when it's going in or out of holsters. At the very rear of the frame is a pretty good sized beaver tail that lets the shooter get a nice high grip on the Hellcat. South of that is the magazine release. It's nice and flush at the back, but it sticks out just a bit enough here at the front to get some nice purchase on it when dropping magazines. It's also reversible from the left to the right side of the pistol for all you lefties out there. Speaking of magazines, they drop out nice and fast. Now again, the Hellcat comes with 2 magazines. This one is an 11-round with a pinky rest, and this one is a 13-round with an extended base plate on the bottom. They're finished in this really nice polished metal finish. They're marked with 9mm on the front and witness holes for round count on the back. Going back to the Hellcat's frame, I think the most notable feature of it here is the texturing. Springfield calls this texturing adaptive, as it's supposed to grab harder the more you squeeze the frame. You can find this texturing all the way around the grip, as well as up higher here on the frame where the thumbs rest, and also on these memory pads that are on either side of the frame. Now, moving up to the slide, we see one feature of the Hellcat that often goes overlooked. The front face of the recoil guide rod is textured, and it sticks out just past the crown of the barrel. Springfield intends this to be used as a sort of standoff device, helping to keep the slide in battery in the event that the muzzle is pressed up against something firmly. The gun can still go off. Other features of the slide include cocking serrations on the front and rear, a loaded chamber witness hole on the top here, as well as the Hellcat logo on the side and the Springfield Armory logo on the top. Additionally, this particular slide is cut for an optic, and as you can see here, it's cut for an RMS-C footprint. Springfield throws in a metal cover plate for times when there's no optic mounted, but I took it off so you guys could see the footprint here. The sights on the Hellcat are surprisingly good. They're metal front and rear with a U-notch white outline rear sight and high visibility front dot with a tritium insert for use in low light. The sights pick up really quickly and really easily, and the U-notch really drives your eye towards that front sight, which I really like. Overall, I think it's a great sight setup for a defensive weapon. The Hellcat is striker fired, and it uses a partially cocked striker system similar to a Glock trigger. Just check that we're clear here. Now, the initial pull of the trigger serves to pull the striker back until it reaches the fully cocked position, and then the sear drops away and releases the striker at the rear of the trigger travel. All of this goes to explain why the Hellcat trigger is really not the greatest in terms of feel. The initial take-up is pretty gritty, And if you're moving slow, there's a noticeable amount of slack or mush right where the brake is, if you can see that. The worst part of the trigger pull for me is the reset, which is further out than you would expect it to be. See, there's just kind of nothing there. All of this is just nothing. The reset's actually way out here. And that's just further out than where you would think it is at first. You get used to it once you shoot it a little bit, but the first couple shots, it's just kind of weird. As far as trigger pull weight, the Hellcat's also on the heavy side. I measured it out at between 7 and 8 pounds, which is even heavier than that Taurus that we just took a look at recently. And I think that's just a little on the heavy side for me. Again, I understand this is a defensive gun and you want a heavier trigger so that you know that you're pulling that trigger, but I think between 7 and 8 pounds is just a little on the heavy side. Disassembling the Hellcat is simple, and it's very similar to other striker-fired handguns. First, we lock the slide back, and then we're going to rotate this takedown lever up until it's vertical like this. The slide can be released, point in a safe direction, pull the trigger, and the slide comes right off. Now, inside the Hellcat, we can see that Glock-inspired trigger system. We've got the sear back here, and if I move it, you can see it moves back and then drops clear, and that's where that mush comes from. Taking a look inside the slide, we've got a dual captive recoil system here. And we've got that hammer forged barrel. And one thing I do want to call out is that really nice factory polish on that feed ramp. I think that's really nice that they threw that in there. Now, to reassemble, barrel drops back in, recoil system drops back in. This flat part indexes with the barrel log down here. This drops back onto the slide. Pull it and lock it, rotate the takedown lever back, drop the slide, and we're ready to go. Overall, the Hellcat is a solid entry in the micro 9mm concealed carry category. It brings a lot of features to the table that its competitors just don't have. This particular Hellcat is going to go through a long-term test alongside that GX4, and at the end we'll put them head to head and see which is the better carry option. If that interests you, make sure that you're subscribed and you've got that bell rung. Throw me a like or a comment if you appreciate what I'm doing here, because it really helps with that algorithm. If you know someone looking at a Hellcat, do me a favor and share them this video. That's all I've got for you this time, so until next time,